looking for hope in a world that has lied to you about who you really are. Wrong woman, holding in story she needs to tell what God really wants you to do in this world. In his name, hope to break free from the shackles and the lies that have become your truth and put blinders on your eyes.
So, did you do your homework from the last episode? Did you figure out what the thing was that was no big deal in your life until somebody else came along and made it a thing? They made fun of it. They teased you about it. They pointed out something that was just normal and natural for you and you became self-conscious about it.
Welcome to Stacy Speaks Hope, the podcast that explores the lies that have kept your little girl bound. We trust the truth of God's word to offset the lies. I'm your host, Dr. Stacy. Get ready to be empowered to become the hope-filled woman God has called you to be. I'll share some of the lies that have held me back. If you hear something that you can relate to, drop a comment in the chat and we'll talk about it.
Did you get a chance to do that? I took time and did it for myself. Even though we were talking about when Adam and Eve were in the garden and God walked upon them and they said, we hid from you because we were naked. But God knew he didn't tell them that. So he asked them, who told you that? He called out that narrative shift that he knew didn't come from him. He knew that something else had happened that changed their thinking. And when I thought about this for myself, my thing showed up in my relationships. My thing of not being accepted, or a spirit of rejection, I came to call it as I learned and studied more about it. But my relationships, after the fights with all the girls in elementary school, in middle school, even though I dreamed about fighting, I didn't fight. But I struggled to kind of fit in, to make friends, because it was a whole new batch of people. I hadn't gone to elementary school with any of those kids, so it was a new thing. And when I started liking boys, there was this one boy that I liked, and I have to laugh because I had no idea about, I'll say, male ego at the time. This one boy I liked, I remember we were arm wrestling, or people were arm wrestling, and I arm wrestled him and beat him. And I don't think he liked me after that. And then there was the friendships that I had of just fitting in class and acting crazy and not learning and doing everything but what I was supposed to do. I forgot all about my dream to be an engineer. Made no effort to get the education I needed because that was the least of my concern. The relationship status, the acceptance status was really all I cared about. As I went into high school and started liking boys more, I even remember there were a couple of guys that I really liked. One I liked that was kind of goofy, kind of a nerd. I intentionally broke up with him when my friends didn't say he was one of the cute guys. So here I am now affecting how somebody I like and hurting their feelings because I was trying to be with that guy, be with the popular boys, the ones that had the big old afros, the athletes, just the popular, whether it was the light skinned ones or the dark skinned ones or whatever the flavor of the month was back in those days. I was influenced by even who I chose to like by other people's response, looking for that acceptance. It's not acceptable to me to like who I like. It's acceptable to me to like who my friends liked, who my friends thought were cute and good enough. And then when we liked the same person, that was a hot mess too. And I remember, partly because of where I lived, partly because of the distance, because again, I lived somewhere different than the people I went to school with. From elementary school, now I was back with some of those same people, or at least in the same distance of neighborhood. And I had boyfriends, but I didn't go on the casual dates, the group dates, the outings, because I lived in a different area and it wasn't just an easy thing to do. But even that, at that young age, not having the opportunity to experience just the casual male female relationship dynamics, all of that kind of activities was just not part of my life. So it was my boyfriend. And even that was, how old was I? Was I sneaking behind my parents' back? Was I trying to go to parties and things where I had my mother walk in a party to get me more than once? And it was like, okay, this is the most embarrassing thing ever. So that became something else I have felt bad about. Tried to negotiate my way so that didn't happen again. I don't know if anybody else ever had that, but it's like, woo, that is not what you want. You're already feeling socially awkward, and then your mama come to the party to get you because it's time to come home and you didn't come out. Because the curfew I had felt like it was way earlier than anybody else's. All of those things of the fitting in and the being in relationship with my peers was a struggle. And I went to college and I had a boyfriend for the majority of the 4 years. It was just like, woo, love at first sight, whatever. And it affected my relationships with my friends because I was always with him. And they just got to the place they couldn't stand hearing his name because that's all I could talk about, or that's all I thought about, or that's how I spent the majority of my time when I wasn't in class. I even went to some of his classes, trying to learn how to speak a language I probably would never use. But that need to be accepted drove me to be in relationships probably in a way that was just unhealthy and unbalanced, because I should still be able to have my friends and hang out with my friends. And he didn't say I couldn't. It was my desire to be in that I'm accepted. Somebody loves me. It's a desperation that doesn't get called out. So many young girls, so many women, you see that. I don't know that it's always even young women, but women will do that and forget about their friends as long as they have a man, have a boyfriend, and then when they break up, they're back crying to their friends, and that's imbalance, and we lose who we are in relationship. It's not That's not the way it was meant to be, I'm sure, by any stretch of the imagination. Just be who you are. For me, it was driven by desperation to be accepted. For me, it was, I don't, it's the opposite of rejection. Hey, if I do, if I am, if I show up as, I want to make sure that I go from the fitting in middle schooler, cutting up in class, to dating the popular boys or liking the popular boys, even if they didn't like me back. It was still liking the right people. And then it was having this boyfriend that consumed my every waking thought and moment over my friends. That balance wasn't there. And I got to a place where I realized much later that I believed that I had to perform and be a chameleon to match whoever I was with. I can say it now. Couldn't have said that in prior times, because it was so important to be acceptable, to be accepted, to fit in. I, showing up as Stacy, was told when I was 7 years old that wasn't good enough. That wasn't a realistic expectation. Now, that wasn't true. It was just I didn't have the wisdom, maturity to say, in this particular group of people had this response to me. That's where the growing up and maturing and really getting our healing for these broken places that our children have made decisions about, have made declarations about, that carry into our adulthood, can't have to be addressed, have to be called out for ourselves, to ourselves, so that we can ask God to help us. That courageous conversation with myself had to say, hey, you don't have to just be what everybody wants you to be. You don't have to perform to be loved. You don't have to do what this one, and this one wants you to do to be accepted. I think I even imposed that on my parents, that if I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do, I might have felt unlovable even to them, which this lack of having this identity of self in relationships with men played out even more when I got married, because I was trying to be what somebody wanted me to be, my first husband. And I don't know that he knew, because we all live in our realms of brokenness. And I got married in the church, walking with the Lord, wanting to be in right standing with God. To be in that relationship as a married woman put me in right standing with God. To be in a physical relationship outside of marriage was not. I married before I knew my husband, and my husband knew me. We didn't have that foundation. We even went through premarital counseling in the church. But the time that it took for us to be able to learn how to communicate with honesty, with authenticity, was a result of us not being able to do that with and for ourselves, to ourselves. So now we're in this marriage, and I don't know how to say what I need to say, and he doesn't know how to say what he needs to say, and to each other, to ourselves, with ourselves, even in prayer with God. It was just became very lonely, very isolated. I cried many tears and felt more alone than I ever had in my whole entire life. And that was in a marriage. Nobody was wrong. Nobody did anything wrong to anybody. It was just, we had not been able to love and be loved because we were both so broken. And it didn't last very long. I was on a plane coming home from a business trip, just crying because I was going home in public. Could not control myself, not bawling loudly, but just sad. Tears just running down my face. So those kind of things, they deeply, deeply penetrate who we are, because I did what the right thing was as far as getting married, but I didn't necessarily marry the right person, and I didn't develop the relationship to be married before I got married. So there was a rush. I got out of that marriage. It ended in divorce. And then I married again, pretty much for the same reason, wanting to be in right standing about having an intimate relationship. We liked each other. We loved each other, so we thought, but we didn't really know each other. So how much can you love someone you don't really know? Didn't have the words to communicate who I am, what I know, what I need, what I want. Stuck in traditions of families and past ways that we've seen other people interact in relationship. It didn't fit for us. You have to create your own marriage. You can't take, this is the way my parents were, and this is the way my parents were, and then you come together, and it's not going to be like that. You have to create your own household, your own way of being, your own order of things. You have to put God first and let him show you. Because honestly, he loves that other person more than you do, and he can show you how to love them. But you got to be whole enough. You got to be wise enough. You got to ask the right questions enough. That courageous conversation with yourself. Hey, how do I love this person? Do I know how to love this person? Do I want to love them in a way that doesn't necessarily feel comfortable to me? I can't impose the way I love on my husband, on another person, and expect it to work for them. It's like me offering somebody a giant chocolate cake with 7 layers full of fudgy frosting, and they don't like chocolate. It's a nice gesture, but it's not a gift that is pleasing to them. It's not helpful to them. It doesn't give them what makes them happy. It takes time to get to know someone, to investigate, to ensure that what we're doing is giving them what they really want, what they really need, that we're in relationship with the other person. That's give and take. 2 marriages, one of which I declared when I was 10 years old that I was going to get married at 25, and I did. That blows my mind because I didn't know what I was talking about at 10 years old. But I said it, and it happened. Now, I never said I was going to get divorced, and certainly didn't say I was going to get divorced twice. But after getting divorced 2 times, trying to be a chameleon to 2 different husbands, and the frustration that I carried of expecting those marriages or my life to continue to be exactly as it was single as it would be with a husband without creating a new life together was ridiculous. And I felt so demoralized. I walked away feeling like a shell of myself because I was giving and giving and giving, trying to be what somebody else wanted without even knowing really what that was and without knowing what I brought to the table. Who am I? Who am I? Just showing up as me, Stacy. I didn't know. I lived alone after college a little bit, but not very long. I did what I thought was the right thing. I had gotten out of college, gave my life to the Lord, wanting to be in right standing with God. And I don't beat myself up for that, but I lacked the wisdom and the guidance and the mentorship to understand what that really meant. To walk into a covenant relationship, the sanctity of a marriage without fully understanding what covenant meant, what covenant was, that it is an unbreakable binding contract. And in marriage, that means with 2 people, you have to learn to give and to take, to be, to ebb and to flow, to be what the other person needs as you learn what that is. And sometimes at great sacrifice, sometimes not so hard. Saying the hard things, keeping the truth, the integrity, the honesty, the openness, all of those things take effort, take time. The time I didn't give, the time that maybe I rushed to be married because I was so in need of acceptance that I didn't even start out with people that had the same desires that I did, the same goals that I did. It seemed like we did at the beginning, of course. In my second marriage, with all the medical things, I had my son. All of those things seemed like the good and right thing to have and to do. But at the end of it, when I just felt empty and completely numb, I couldn't even feel anymore. I couldn't even hurt anymore. I was so numb. Then I had to look in the mirror and have that courageous conversation I refer to. I was the one that was there both times. I was the constant as a math person. I was the thing that didn't change. So now I had to look and see, what was it that I kept bringing? Whether it was an unrealistic expectation that people had to yield to my perception of marriage, or it was just that I was unwhole myself. My heart was broken. I couldn't love with all my heart when my heart was in fragments. My heart was shattered. My heart was broken because I hadn't allowed myself to go to God and get the healing for the brokenness that happened way before I ever thought about getting married, way before I even was an adult. Now I'm bringing this fragile, broken heart to a person whose heart is fragile and broken as well. And when we push the two hearts together, they just crash even more. You can't show up as 50% and expect someone else to make you 100%. That's not what marriage is. That's not how it works. So it's so vital as we go down this healing to look back at relationships, to look at those aspects of our lives that spill over, that carry over, the brokenness, the experiences, the beliefs, the lies, the way we make them truths. What does it look like in your relationship stories? Whether it's with your female friends or your male friends, your boyfriends, your husband, think about how much that gets factored in, how much that pours into how you show up in every interaction that you have and have had. Whether we stay in relationships too long and we're holding on for dear life because we just want somebody to love us. We don't let go when we should because we're afraid of being alone. We run into marriages too soon because we just want it to be right, want it to be that final relationship. Now, I can say after long ago, 2 marriages and 2 divorces, I still want to be married. I want the relationship that I believe God has for me, the marriage that He has for me. I want to marry my best friend, but I'm now wise enough to know, what does it take to get to that place? I have to be honest in my communication with myself to be able to share who I am unapologetically, without shame, with someone who can go before God on my behalf, with me, for me, as I do the same for Him. To have the relationship that I dream of. I haven't given up hope. I don't want you to give up hope. Whatever it is that you haven't quite gotten yet, that you wanted, it's within the realm of possibility. With God, all things are possible. He knows what we don't know, but if we can ask with clarity, with honesty, that's a gift that only He can give us, to be free, to speak lovely words, words of love, words of truth, words of just not masking why we do what we do, why we want what we want. We do that a lot of times to just sound right, to sound good. But the most important thing is, we go through this journey, we have to know what the lie is, to cancel out the lie with the truth. Where we get that truth, where we get that truth from, has to be from something that we don't doubt. So we have to take our time, because those things sometimes have to bubble up to the surface. We push them down so long, so far, so hard. We might not even remember them. We need to remember what made our little girl smile. When a little girl is carelessly playing, carefree, they might just be walking around. They might be playing with their toys, their dolls. They might just be enjoying the sunshine, running around, singing to themselves, and nothing else matters. That little girl is still inside of you. She's still inside of me. Don't let her sit on a shelf so long that you forget about her. She's that carefree joy is still in you. The possibilities of that delight is still possible to you. We don't have to always look at just the bad part of our little girl, the things that hurt her. What made her smile? So that we can remember to smile at those little things again before we got distracted, before we got encumbered and entangled. There is that chance so that she can show up in our woman to walk in those places, to do what God has called us to do, to show up for those people who need to be reminded that there is light and love and joy and hope through God, who sent his son to the earth to give us that opportunity. So as you reflect, look back through those relationships, look back for the patterns, look back through the lines of consistency and ask the questions about things that maybe you never thought about. That's going to lead you to getting free. That's going to lead you to being able to show up and give your whole heart to God so that it can be a whole heart. What a blessing it is to share this journey with you as you look through these relationships in your life, as you look through the patterns of how you've carried out, how you love or don't love, the way you hold back or you give yourself away as if you're not worth restraint. If you drop a word in the comment section, if this resonated for you, give it a thumbs up, share it with somebody you know who might benefit from this.
Thank you for watching Stacy Speaks Hope. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. To schedule a free coaching call, the link is in the description.
Grown woman holding in story she needs to tell what God really wants you to do in this world. In his name, hope to break free from the shackles and the lies that have become your truth and put blinders on your eyes. You built walls around your heart. You have plugged out your ears. Get freedom to hope's what you need. It's in reach. Wipe your tears, little girl. Hope is what she's bringing. Let Stacy speak hope to ya. She's bringing straight hope to ya. Hope is what she's bringing. Let Stacy speak hope to ya. Hope is what she's bringing. Listen closely and you'll see hope to ya. Yeah.